Hi, I'm John Rabel, the founder of Launch, which is a legal and business advisory firm for small and mid-sized companies. I thought I'd talk a little bit about how businesses can use their operations to limit some risk. So, business, of course, is inherently risky. There's just going to be some risks that come along with running a business. But there are sort of ways that you can build in processes or procedures that'll both help you be more efficient and effective and at the same time limit some risk. Of course, the flip side of that's also true. If you're not really running your operations through processes and systems, then you open yourself up to some risk that you could avoid and you could pay the cost for that. But a couple of places or areas that businesses could concentrate on systemizing or processing their operations that would really help are things along the lines of, how you're bringing on potential new employees. What's your interview process look like? What's your hiring process look like? How are you onboarding those new employees? And have you got sort of a system in place for all of that? That's regularly being reviewed and updated? Making sure that you don't have any interview questions that violate state or federal laws. Same goes with the job application. Do you have questions on there that you shouldn't be asking about? For example, ban the box is becoming more and more popular on the state level where you can't ask certain questions about certain things. So you want to make sure you're leaving that information off, not opening yourself up to some liability there, and that you're at the same time developing a process that can just be repeated over and over, which is more effective, more efficient, and makes your business run more smoothly. Another example along the same lines would be how are you onboarding clients or customers, especially if you're in like a service-based business where you're providing service to a client that could go on for a while. How are you bringing them into the business? What type of documents might they need to sign? What type of processes do they need to understand? How they're going to handle information, those types of things. All that can be systemized, repeated easily. It also puts in place a process to make sure that anything like confidentiality is addressed or potential liability if something goes wrong. So that way you're covering some potential areas beforehand, any gaps, things like that that could come up down the road have ideally been addressed at the front. And then you're not going to have those problems when you are into the relationship and working moving forward. Another thing to think about in general, how businesses are set up, is they eventually sort of move into having different departments such as sales, marketing, human resources, customer service. And so really making sure that those different departments or divisions don't get siloed off. So HR doesn't know what sales and marketing is doing, or marketing and sales don't know what each other are doing. One could be promising something that the other can't deliver on. That opens up major potential issues, leads to customer service problems, and then you've got this internal back and forth that's extremely inefficient. It's also opening you up to potential lawsuits, disputes, whatever the case may be, which are going to be time consuming and expensive, even if it's something that you win. So watching out for those areas and how you can set up a process, probably through some technology that makes sure everyone's working together, understands what the other teams or departments are doing, and all moving towards the same goal. Employee management in general is another area that can be really systemized and cut down on some huge risk. Obviously, employees being a big risk that businesses face. And so along those lines, what are your processes for putting in place policies that employees need to follow, whether that be a handbook or just some small policies they need to abide by? What type of review policy do you have in place for them, where you're sort of going over their job performance, updating that, making sure they're moving in the right direction, and making sure you're keeping a record of all that. So all that can be done on a regular process where you don't have to think about it sort of right off the cuff, put everything in place, and then it runs smoothly. If issues do come up with an employee, then you've got like a well-documented file of things you can use to help protect yourself should any employees make any claims about wrongful termination or the way they might have been treated with the company. Contracts are another great area to look at, setting up a process or a system to manage those. Putting in place procedures to have them regularly updated, reviewed, sent out, signed, stored, and then making sure you're taking note of anything that might need to be done in terms of timeframes around canceling it, renewing it, whatever the case may be. All that turned into a process where you don't have to think about it or remember it, makes you extremely efficient, can significantly cut down on the time it takes to turn a prospect into a client, and then also limits some potential liability that businesses might have around contracts, contracts being another huge risk area for businesses. So I think in general, figuring out maybe some areas in your business that you can turn into processes, setting those processes up in order to become more efficient, and then at the same time, you'll be reducing some of the risk that comes along with running a business. So if you've got any questions about processes, how to set them up, how to limit some risk, feel free to reach out to me. J Rabel, that's JRAB as in boy, IL, at launchstrategylegal.com or 804-442-6090.